Chapter 3, Ways and Means, Part C. If we go through the history of ancient sages, we find that they had sacrificed all the comforts of life for the sake of attaining reality. They led a life of austerity and penance, undergoing every kind of hardship and trouble for the sake of the object so dear to their heart. Intense longing for the goal made them blind to everything else, and they remained firm on the path, not minding the difficulties and reverses that came across their way. Such an intense longing for the object and an iron will to achieve the goal is absolutely necessary to ensure complete success. I may assure you that you can win laurels in the spiritual field if only you turn your attention towards God and proceed with will, faith and confidence. No matter how adversely you may be placed, surrounded by all the worries and miseries of a household life. Your busy life will then offer no hindrance in your way. Generally, people go hesitatingly towards God, thinking themselves to be too incapable and weak to achieve the real thing. A powerful will made at the very first step and maintained all through shall never fail to achieve complete success. Half the distance is crossed if a man enters the field with a firm mind. Difficulties and dejections will melt away at a mere glance, and the path of success will be made smooth. An indecisive attitude leads to half hearted efforts and generally results in mere partial success, or more often in failure. Our firm will enables us automatically to draw in power from unknown sources for the accomplishment of the task. A firm will, supplemented by an ever increasing impatience or yearning to achieve the object, will enhance the force of our effort, and we shall thereby remain in constant touch with the same real thing, catching every hint conducive to our spiritual well being and progress. Impatience or constant restlessness to reach the goal in the shortest possible time is thus by far the most important factor that contributes to our speedy success. We must not rest even for a while till we have gained the real object, eternal peace and the calmness. Intense longing for an object naturally creates restlessness for it, and we have no peace till we achieve the desired object. It is therefore a very essential thing and must be cultivated by whatever means possible. Thus, for gaining eternal peace, we cultivate within us restlessness and impatience at the preliminary stage. It may look strange on the face of it when I ask you to cultivate the very thing we want to do away with, but it is the only way to achieve sure and speedy success. The restlessness thus created is temporary and different in character from the ordinary restless condition of mind. It is finer and more pleasant. It creates an inlet in our heart for the divine current to flow in and smoothens our passage to the kingdom of God. If you thrust a man down into the water, you find that he makes desperate efforts to free himself from your grip. It is only because his impatience to get out of the water at once increases his force of effort, and he does not rest till he is out of the water. Similarly, such desperate efforts caused by extreme impatience to reach the goal at once will quicken our steps on the path of realization and ensure easy success in the least possible time. That is the easiest and the most efficient means of speedy success. My associates have often inquired from me the method for creating such type of restlessness within them. I may tell them that intense love for the object will automatically lead them to it. When we are in deep love, we shall naturally feel impatient to secure nearness with the loved object. When we are greatly in love with any of the worldly objects, its idea comes to our mind again and again, and we think of it over and over again. Now, in order to develop divine love in our hearts, we have only to reverse the process. If we remember God frequently or for the most part of the day, we will automatically develop love for Him, which, if continued with earnestness, will create impatience in our heart to secure union at the earliest. Another way of developing love with God is to play the part of a lover as if you are enacting a drama. But it is only for those who are almost incapable of finer means. The method, though artificial, will shortly bring you to reality, and the feeling of true love and impatience will begin to agitate in your heart. The most important factor in realization is self confidence in our own capacity and power to achieve success. It is absurd to think, even for a moment, that we are in any way too weak or deficient to acquire the highest state of perfection ever attained so far, even by the greatest sages of the past. We must march on the path of realization like a brave soldier with full faith and confidence, not minding the difficulties or reverses. Dejections and disappointments weaken our will and shatter our firmness. We should meet reverses with a brave heart and should never give way to the feeling of despondency, which is the worst drawback and the deadliest poison to spiritual life. One of the essentials in the making of a man engaged in spiritual pursuit is moderation. It is a very wide term and covers every phase of human activity. It means balance in all senses and faculties, nothing more or less what is naturally required at the time for any specific purpose without its slightest impression on the mind. Generally, today we find moderation disturbed in almost all cases. The reason is mainly that we watch undue importance to whatever thing comes to our view, and we strengthen it by the force of our thought, with the result that it grows stronger over all others. We cultivate this habit and apply it to different things with varying intensity. The result that follows is nothing but disturbance and mental conflict, and it is the root cause of all our troubles and miseries. Realization is not possible unless moderation and balance are restored. It corresponds closely with the very real thing which existed at the time of creation, when everything was in perfectly balanced state. Now, after the lapse of time, degeneration crept in, our senses and faculties lost their balance, and everything went into disorder. What we have to do now is to control our senses and faculties in order to restore moderation in them. To cultivate moderation, we have to pay special attention to external ways of life too. Example, gentle and polite language, courteous dealing, sympathy and love with fellow beings, reverence to elders, unrevengeful nature, and so on. These habits are greatly helpful in our making. Moderation is a characteristic of nature. If we gain complete moderation, we are in a way in conformity with nature, and it is a very essence of spirituality. Lastly, the most important and unfailing means of success is the prayer. It connects our link with the God, to whom we surrender ourselves with love and devotion. In prayer, we stand before Him as a humble suppliant, presenting to Him our true state and completely resigning ourselves to His will. This is the true form of prayer. And as true devotees, we must also feel satisfied with the will of the Master. It is a folly to pray to God for petty worldly ends, except in most exceptional cases when peace of mind is greatly disturbed for want of the bare necessities. We should always pray to the Supreme Master, the Omnipotent and the Omniscient alone, with a mind totally absorbed in love and submission to Him, forgetting even ourselves altogether. This is the proper way of offering prayer, which in such a state seldom goes unrewarded. I have dealt with this point more elaborately in my book, that is Commentary on the 10 Maxims of Sahaj Marg. In the end, I may also bring home to your mind that there are different forms and practices for achieving the end. They might lead you on the path of realization to some distance, but how far I do not propose to discuss here. I leave it to the judgment and the experience of the readers themselves. But I assure you positively that it is Raja Yoga and Raja Yoga alone that can lead you on to your ultimate destination or the highest point of human approach where you are in perfect harmony with nature, assuming your absolute and pure form. No other form or practice can bring forth such results. It is therefore essential to have recourse into this science if you aim at the highest point. The help and support of a truly worthy guide is, of course, the essential factor and at the same time a serious problem of the day, too. But a true seeker, I assure you, shall never fail to find him. End of the chapter.